Hello, hello, and welcome to the third Tezos Town Hall, everyone. Very excited to have you all here. I'm Katie, the Chief of Staff here at Trilitech. I'm your host for today. We have an amazing lineup here. Look at all these beautiful faces. A lot of OGs today. We're going to talk about staking, staking on Tezos, which is a really exciting topic. Lots of great energy. But before we kick off of that, I wanted to just do a bit of a recap. And before I make introductions to these OGs, September was a busy month for us in the Tezos ecosystem. So I wanted to just shout out some of the amazing things that happened this month, or this last month for in October. We celebrated the 10th anniversary of the Tezos white paper. Very exciting. It's a huge milestone for the entire Tezos ecosystem. It's incredible to see what the ecosystem we've been able to do, go from idea to white paper to launching layer 1 protocol. Really cool is seeing all the projects that have been built on top of Tezos over the last 6+ years. We also saw Token. I saw a lot of people in Singapore during September. So Token 2049, we had a pretty crazy booth at the actual conference. Saw over 500 visitors visit the Tezos booth, which was exciting to see the energy. We also had Arthur do a keynote on Tezos X. We also did a couple side events. So there's a lot of side events happening across the ecosystem. We saw Zeev Rollup Day, to roll up or not. We also did the Tezos Realm event, which was hosted by TZ APAC. And we did a side event with 1inch. So that was Crypto Carnival. Not only that, we had lots of activity and activations in the art space. We saw Winter Circus happen from 17th to the 22nd of September. It's organized by FX Hash. Tezos running alongside Entangled exhibition, which is very, very cool. But also as a community, we saw a new partnership with the Museum of Moving Images. We did a curation event, which is very, very cool to see, exhibiting 3 very, very cool selected artists by the community. It was shown in the Moving Image NYC. It's a huge congratulations to those winners that were exhibited. But also we kicked off Stake-tember, a campaign to build awareness around through a series of educational threads, but also everything around staking, this new role. Which brings us to today. What are we here to talk about with this amazing audience? We're going to talk about staking on Tezos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it over to my audience, my OG speakers here, to give a little overview of who they are, introduce themselves, talk about their role in this ecosystem and how long they've been contributing. So we'll start with Chris.
Okay. Well, I've been at Tezos Foundation in various roles since 2021, July 2021, and I run the baking infrastructure for the Tezos Foundation. I also run the IT department, and I also run security audits. So I have 3 jobs, and also I used to be the Twitter handle for Tezos as well. So 4 jobs, basically. That's me.
Wearing many hats. I've been an OG for quite some time.
That's a good point.
There you go. The most important hat of all.
Doesn't fit with the headset, unfortunately.
Over to Kevin.
Yes, I've been in the Tezos ecosystem for, I guess 6 years now. 7 if you want to crowd sale participation, or fundraiser participation, I should clarify. And I do primarily DeFi. So Tezos.finance, it's the first lending platform on Tezos, like Aave or Compound. USD Tez, which was the first stablecoin on Tezos, first USD stablecoin, Tezos Exchange, and just generally active in the community. Try to support ventures of all branches, from NFT art to gaming and all that. So proponent of Tezos governance, on-chain governance, and yeah.
Proper OG, 6 years and counting. So let's go over to Sergei.
Thank you for amazing overview, Katie, and I'm happy to be with friends from Tezos ecosystem here on the call. So I'm CEO of PK Labs, and that's the team well known in the ecosystem as Baking Bed. We've been a long time in the ecosystem, and we're known for developing TZKT Explorer, Better Call Dev Explorer, and DeepDupe indexer and some other tools. And we are happy to support our community with all the data that we provide.
Excellent. Love it. Over to last but not least, Alex.
Well, I'm Alex Liu. I'm Director of Operations at Tezos Commons. We're a nonprofit based in the US that helps build communities on Tezos, and we kind of do about a little bit of everything from running infrastructure, hosting meetups, to going to help out at these big conferences, and right now are big putting out a lot of content like Tez Talks and the baking sheet. And then also we right now are one of our bigger activities is running infrastructure. And then on top of that, we have a lot of relationships with central exchanges and sort of act as their tech support there. And sort of like Kevin, been here since the beginning, feels like a very short time, but a long time also. And it's just kind of bittersweet to have these moments and seeing all the Tezos OGs and just Tezos people.
I love it. I love the baking sheet. It's one of my favorites every week. So I didn't mention myself. I've only been in the ecosystem for 2.5 years, so I feel like I'm the newbie, which is I feel a little bash at the moment. But thanks everyone for giving their overview. We're going to do a little bit different approach to town hall. I know we've had the last 2 town halls approached. I think the last one was around Manchester United and Canvas, and the first one was kind of an introduction across the ecosystem. But today we're going to do something fun. We're going to jump right into the topic, which is around staking. And the flow is going to be where I'm going to be role playing a little bit of a new ecosystem member, and I'm going to ask some questions to this true OG group here, which will hopefully have all the amazing, brilliant answers. And we're going to have our experts, come to the table and really answer these for us. So we're going to start out real basic for those that have joined and maybe are new to this space and they're like, "Oh, Tezos, okay." So let's start out. This one's for Chris. What's a proof of stake blockchain?
Oh goodness. So where to start? So a proof of stake blockchain is a blockchain where the block producers have to stake some coins as a security bond against malicious behavior. In a nutshell. So we call our block producers bakers, other chains call them validators, and the more stake the block producer has, typically the more baking opportunities the baker has. If you open up Tezos KT and have a look on the front page, you can see the activity on the chain. You can see the bakers, which baker is producing which block at which time. Now, if a baker does something naughty, like double bake, and that's where you produce 2 blocks, because you're scheduled to bake at a particular slot. If you were to produce 2 different blocks at that slot, that's called double baking. It's naughty, okay, because you split the chain, right? Now you'd lose part of your stake, or maybe even all of your stake, depending on how naughty you've been. Now that has actually happened on our network. It's very rare. And it's usually due to infrastructure misconfiguration. Right. So if you were to bring up 2 bakers with the same key, you would double bake for sure. And that, in fact, that's how we test double baking in the development team. So that's roughly what it is, and it contrasts to things like Bitcoin that have proof of work chains where they have to continually do lots of hashing to get a block that meets certain conditions to be accepted on the chain. So on a Bitcoin miner, you don't have a stake. You're just repeatedly trying to rehash the block to get it to meet some conditions. Does that make sense? Does it? I mean, probably the guys around the table going, that's not what a proof of work chain
No,
is.
it's so accurate.
Anyone
I
want
think
to fight him on
so,
that?
whenever anyone they first hear about Bitcoin, or whenever or you go through the experience of explaining Bitcoin or any of this stuff to anyone, they hear, "Oh, okay, so I can buy it. Oh, mining. Can I be a miner?" And then you have to explain, "Okay, you're more than 10 years late for that. It's you're cost prohibitive, all that stuff." And then they realize, "Okay, so I can't do that." But even back in the day, I remember people were thinking like, I believe in this so much, I just can't participate as a miner. I just don't have that kind of capital, let alone to keep competing. But with proof of stake, I always thought of it as like you get to capitalize on your belief because you put something at stake. And then as opposed to, proving that you can get all this computing equipment together and get up to, some rig and, all that stuff. So yeah, a lot more democratized in that way in terms of participation reward.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, because the barrier to entry is a lot lower for Tezos, right? You can get some funds together with your friends and get a baker going quite easy.
Yeah.
Okay, so if Tezos is a proof of stake blockchain, have we been able to stake this whole time since the beginning? Because I think that's a question at hand. What were people doing? I'm hearing baking, I'm hearing staking. So I'm just curious around, have we been able to stake this whole time? Maybe this one's over to Kevin.
Oh, because I'm so animated about this.
You are animated. I love it. I love the passion. I love the passion.
Twitter. Well, yeah, I mean, like we've been using the term staking and delegating interchangeably, in the Tezos ecosystem for the past 6 years, but that wasn't precisely accurate. And the way it kind of flowed was people would say, "Oh, Tezos is proof of stake. How do I stake?" It's like, well, let me show you. Come to your wallet and set the delegator, and there you go. You're staking. Because it's just so much easier than. I think part of it, but also it's just not really a great way to explain, to say like, well, technically it's not really staking, you're delegating. And then, okay, well, who put something up at stake? Well, technically you would call the bond deposit of a baker, but that's only 10% of the, so no, it's like staking, delegating, but properly delegating is not staking. It's liquid. You get to hold on to it. You get to send it to somebody else. You can, sell it or whatever you want to do. And you're not penalized if something goes wrong with the baker that you delegate to. It's just on the baker. It's not on you. So there was no consequence to delegating. So kind of, you didn't even really have anything at stake, not even in a practical sense. But in June 2024, we instituted in the Tezos blockchain a new function that we do call staking, and that's proper staking, where the Tez is locked. It's locked on chain, still non-custodial, but it's locked. And then so that's what staking actually is in an industry-wide term, which has also kind of crystallized over time to become the definition of staking. So we used to say like liquid staking, but that's become, so we did modify it. We weren't like saying the wrong thing, but also, and there were a lot of variations on staking, just variations on that theme that different ecosystems had. But now it's like, no, we're not messing with that. It's just you're liquid delegating or you're staking, and that's it. So if you hadn't done anything with setting up your wallet or any of that stuff, if you think you were staking before June 2024, you definitely weren't staking.
Yeah.
100% you were not, even though we said it did, even though the wallet said you were, even though the exchange or the block explorer had said the word staking. Maybe that's our bad as the community collectively that we all didn't clarify on that. But now you can, and you get twice the rewards of delegating. So you do have to do something, though. You have to go to stake.tezos.com to get the staking going.
Yeah, jumping straight to the CTA, Kevin. I like it.
Oh, you
Chris,
got it.
I think you have something to add.
I was just checking in the handbook of Tezos that I have here on page 5. So yeah, within the core team, we've only ever called it delegating, and the only people that staked before June were bakers, and they had a 10%. Yeah, if you took all the funds that were delegated to them, it was about 10% was their security deposit, is another name for it, but it is a stake because you're putting it up. But now anyone can stake and can contribute to that security of the network.
So maybe let me throw up another question. This one maybe for Sergei or Alex. Why should someone stake their Tez now?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. The obvious reason for that is you earn twice more staking, and it doesn't require you to do anything at all. You just stake instead of delegating, and you earn more. And for me, as a regular user, I think it's no-brainer. And also as a benefit, you also secure the network and help and participate in the decentralization of the network, which is really important. And this also indirectly contributes to the value of Tezos as a main currency of the network. So I think as a user, I would prefer only to stake, to be honest. So that's my point.
Yeah.
What do you think, Alex?
I think you hit the nail on the head there with the 2x rewards. That's usually something that usually is pretty attractive to people, and especially in this space. From a private baker standpoint, and what I tell my my people that stake with me is that it's the big differentiator to me is that one, as a baker, the rewards now, I don't have to distribute it like I do with old delegation. And after every cycle, when you have to distribute it, you have to do the calculations. And usually there are, distributors, software out there that you can run. But if you're a small baker, it really makes no sense. So you just do it by hand and push out transactions, batch transactions like that. So this really takes out a lot of the logistics of running a baker in that sense. But also the icing on the cake for me is on top of that is just that the rewards start and stop immediately from the moment you stake and when you stop staking and when you unstake your funds. Whereas when you delegate, it takes about 2 cycles, which is close to about 6 days. So you immediately start earning, and then your rewards immediately stop when you unstake. But with delegation, there's that lag period before your rewards start accruing and things like that. But the nice thing for stakers and versus delegators is that if you're a delegator, you have to rely on your baker to distribute rewards, and there's a certain trust that you give in your baker that they will do it properly and that they will actually pay out those rewards. A lot of times we have seen in the past some bakers just go inactive and then they just stop paying out, and then delegators are asking, why am I not receiving baker payments? But with this new system, you don't even run into that because it's all automated by the protocol itself. So it's basically what people actually, a lot of people like, which is just sort of set it and forget it. But like as Kevin was saying, if you think you were delegating or if you think you were staking before June 2024, you were not. So if you want that sort of, set it and forget it, then you need to, go to stake.tezos.com and stake and then get that going. And then you can set it and forget it, and you'll start receiving rewards automatically through the protocol.
Yeah. And that's like the very people we need to reach out to. The very people who would enjoy this the most are the people who have been passively delegating for all this time, and they did set it and forget it, and they've moved on. So they're the hardest to reach to. But once they find out, it's like, oh, this is what I actually wanted the whole time. Let me get on this right now. But it's such a like they'll scroll past their feed, and if they see, oh, start staking on Tezos, they don't know we mean something else than what they think they're already doing. So it's a hard one. It's hard.
It is a hard one, definitely a hard one. And a lot of misconceptions out there, which I think Stake Timber, which is hard for me to say, was all about really pushing that educational material out. But also I think advocates in the family, in the OG family that are, really pushing the messaging. We need to do more of that. What about a user that like comes to the table and they want to stake, but maybe they also want to delegate. They want to have both the two worlds. Why would you choose to stake fully? Or maybe why would you choose to stake only partial? Or why would you choose to just delegate? Like from a user perspective, anyone have any thoughts on those different user journeys?
So you have to delegate still. So you as a user, you delegate to a baker, and then after that you can choose what you stake. So you pick one baker, you delegate to them. If that's a public baker and you have an arrangement with them to pay you delegation rewards, that all happens off the chain. And maybe that baker will have TRD or TezPay or something that does that automatically. But you still have to delegate, and then you can choose what you stake, and you can stake pretty much as you want. Within there are some limits. So your baker's got to can only accept a certain amount of stake. That's determined by a parameter. Most bakers seem to be taking 5 times the amount of stake that they have. And you also need to leave a little bit of room for fees, because staking operations, unstaking operations cost just a little bit of money. So if you stake, one of my friends called me the other day, he says, I can't unstake, I can't finalize. And I said, yes, because you've got no funds. So I had to send him a Tez. And then he was able to finalize his Tez and send me a Tez back. So you have to be you've got to be aware, like any operation on a blockchain, you do get charged. So you have to delegate still.
Yeah.
And you choose your stake as well.
So that optionality, being able to choose your stake, I think is really interesting. Why would someone, Sergei, you said you would stake everything, right? Why would someone maybe choose to only stake half of what they're delegating?
Well, I think for me as a user, the main difference is that when you delegate, you can use your assets. Basically, you can undelegate immediately. And when you stake, you have to wait 4 cycles, which is around, I think, 12 days to unstake. And then it means that if you need your assets immediately, you will not be able to access them. So that's the main difference, I think, for me. But if you don't need your assets immediately, then it's better to stake and earn twice the amount. So
yeah,
like
I think. No,
go ahead.
I was going to piggyback on Sergey there. As a sort of power NFT collector, I like to have some liquid Tez, which is the part that is delegated, and I can use that Tez to go shopping an object or FX hash or AKA swap, and being able to have that Tez freely liquid means I can collect as much art as I want. So
yeah.
See,
that's the same boat for me. I love my little collecting commute time. I love to collect on my commute. So
I'm a hodler, so I stake everything as well. And also there's also an analogy which people will cringe at. But if you think of your Tezos wallet as being a current account in a high street bank, where you don't get any interest on it. So if you leave your funds there, you can get at your funds at any time. You don't get but you'll fall behind with the inflation of the currency. And if you delegate, it's like putting your funds in an instant access savings account in some ways, in that your baker will pay you some rewards off chain once a month. And then if you stake, it's like putting it into a higher interest, fixed rate account where you have to draw it out and request it like 2 weeks in advance. Now, we're not recreating the banking system like that, but that is a conceptual way of thinking about the 3 different things, more or less.
Yeah. And this is the greatest change to Tezos tokenomics since the very beginning. And I like the way Arthur Brightman explained it, because this is part of a larger, more concepts related to the changes in the tokenomics that happened over the last few months. And the idea here is we shouldn't see our blockchain rewards as primarily, or the benefits of using Tezos as primarily these rewards that come from delegating, because that really inhibits us. I mean, there's a lot of times when we want to maybe buy that NFT or do something in DeFi, but we always think in the back of our mind, but am I getting more just from delegating? Because this is Tez that's going to stop getting the delegation rewards. And Chris, you mentioned like bank accounts and all that, and I think even though it's nothing to do with it, I imagine what if my liquid checking account earned those kinds of rewards? I probably wouldn't spend very much either. So our old tokenomic system was really designed for when Tez was really just a cryptocurrency for all intents and purposes. There weren't any dApps yet. And now we have dApps. Now we're in this whole dApp economy. We exploded in 2021. We just had way more users, way faster than we ever thought we would get, even just for 1 or 2 apps. But we needed to adapt our tokenomics because of that. And I think, so it took time to get here, and I think a good reflection, and that's one of the best parts about Tezos. We can look at the broader world and optimize in this system and make it, ultimately better than anything we've seen. And we have that luxury of time. But also we needed to see the norms of our Tezos economy, and how this network sector, staking, delegating, baking, all that stuff, how that would interact with the commerce sector, with the finance sector, DeFi and NFT art and gaming and all of that stuff. So it's a really exciting time. And I think it'll really transform dApps and their economies in the long run.
Really interesting perspective. Anyone else have anything to add before we move on to the next newbie question? No? Okay. I actually want to touch a little bit. We touched on user experience, and this one maybe is for Sergei. What is staking like from a user experience or user perspective? And if a user only has ever delegated, and this is the first time they're staking, they're that passive delegator in the past that actually, staking is now a thing. What are the changes they'll likely see regarding distribution of their rewards?
Well, that's a very good question. And I think for some users, it might be a little bit confusing because when you stake your assets, then let me share my screen. I want to show TZKT, where people can explore some transactions. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. So first of all, it's very important that here on TZKT, you can always check what is the ratio between staked and delegated assets. So you can see here that almost 20% of all Tezos tokens, they are staked and 46% delegated, which means that a lot of people are still delegating. So maybe they don't know about staking or they don't know how to do that. And then if you go here, click on the staking, you can see all bakers, and the best way to go through this list for me is to sort this list by free space. So basically, you can see which bakers have more space to accept new stakers, and then
Sergei,
yeah,
I'm pretty old. You want to zoom in just a little bit?
Oh, okay. So I didn't know that it's not okay. Let me try. Is it
There
better
you go.
now?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, thank you. So then we can, for example, click to this baker and see that he has this amount of staked assets, total staked assets, and also delegated assets. And then we can explore here a little bit, go into details, but I'm not going into details now. So, and as a user, you can also see who is staking with this baker. For example, you can click here on stakers and you can see the list of all stakers and their shares. And if you go to a specific user, that's where we can see the difference. You can notice that in the transaction history, users, they don't have this delegation payouts anymore. And that's where it might be more confusing. But actually, you always get your payouts, but they are not appearing here anymore. So these payouts you can see in rewards tab here. And you can see that this is rewards history. And for each cycle, you get paid by protocol a specific amount. And this amount is accumulated to your staking balance. And then whenever you want, and your staking balance is increasing, and then whenever you want, you can stake part of it. So that's how you basically get your payout from the staking activity.
It's really interesting.
That's a very short overview.
Yeah, I mean, as a user, so I remember, when I was just delegating, I loved to see those rewards kind of hit my Kakai wallet, and it was always kind of one of those things you get to see it kind of coming in. And then I remember when I was started staking, I was all of a sudden those went down, obviously, and automatically it was being updated from the protocol. So it was an interesting user experience, and I know that like the first thing I saw was like, oh, what's happened in my wallet, because I used to go in and see those rewards kind of coming in and seeing the baker payout. So it was definitely a change from a user perspective, someone that maybe isn't as technical going into the TZKT and seeing all those distribution. But I think that's definitely a user change, at least when users are technically looking at their wallet for their rewards. So, anyone else have anything to add on from a user perspective? Because I know there's been a lot, it's not a significant change, but it is, I mean, it's not a significant change from, you can still access all this information and be able to see it on TZKT, but anything else to add from the wider audience?
Well, just to say on the Baker page, you can see the amount of stake that the baker's prepared to take as a parameter. It's usually, people seem to be choosing 5. So if they stake 10,000 TES, they can accept 50,000 TES from others. And then you have the edge. I can't remember the full name. I should remember the full name, but it's called the edge. And that's effectively the rate of, so the reward gets split by the protocol. Some of it goes to the baker and some of it goes to the wallet holder. And that edge is the percentage that the baker takes. So you can see what fees the baker gets on that page as well.
Speaking of bakers, now that we have this new staking role, what's the role of the bakers? What changes do they have to make? This one's probably to you, Chris.
We just had to upgrade our software to make sure we had the protocol on it. In fact, I mean, there wasn't a lot of change. Even as a personal baker, I had to set my parameters. That's about it actually. I just had to say that I wanted to accept staking, so I set my staking ratio to 5, and I set my commission to 10% on my home one. Now, on TF, we want people to stake with the community. We don't want people to stake with us. So that we've got to accept staking because we've got some custodian accounts that stake with us that are our money. But we have set our commission to 100%, and that's just because we don't want people to stake with us. We want them to stake with the community and let the community get on with it.
Chris, is that your dog wanting to join the
Yes,
the town hall?
I apologize. It's one of my dogs wants to join.
We have a question from the community.
Yeah. She wants to know more about parameters. I think, I've heard a lot in the community in this, over different forums. What about people who are afraid of getting slashed? What can bakers do to inspire confidence? And this one probably goes to everyone. So maybe a little perspective from each of you guys.
I think
Who wants to start?
As a user, I wouldn't worry about that, because if you go to TZKT, for example, and find bakers with the largest amount of staked assets and amount of stakers, then you're confident that these people, they took responsibility of a lot of other stakers, then probably they are reliable and nothing is going to happen. So I think the chance of being slashed is very low, to be honest. So I wouldn't really worry about that if you pick a very popular baker.
Yeah, assuming they're reliable, have a good record.
Yeah, I mean, we do tests. We test Octez. We test the software to check that it doesn't have a malfunction in it. So there's also protections within the Tezos blockchain software. If it thinks it's going to double bake, it will stop itself. Really, the slashing happens for double attestation, for double baking, when normally it's when someone brings up 2 bakers connected to the same wallet, and that you get 2 blocks, and that's when it happens. I think most of the cases we've seen double baking has been when that's happened, and it's when someone over architects their infrastructure and you get a split horizon where both bakers think they're live. But you can ask your baker, you say, first of all, you can say, do you use a remote signer? And a remote signer will keep track of the block number, and it will check that it's not signing a block at the same height. So you can ask your baker informed questions, and usually that will
We got a little guess. Our drive-in.
Usually that will protect you from double baking. But
excellent.
Go for reputation. Pick a baker that's been doing it for a long time.
So what?
Yeah, I would say. Sorry, Katie.
I was going to ask about considerations for when choosing a baker, but go ahead, Alex.
Oh, I was gonna piggyback on Chris, saying that choose a baker, with a good reputation. Typically, I would say when we get asked this question by the community a lot, we usually answer the same thing and tell them, choose a baker with good reputation. But really, a good, tall tale sign is that they've been around and they have had their baking operation for, more than a few years. That's usually a very good sign. And then also, for the new bakers that are starting, um, those questions that Sergey and Chris were saying to ask them are usually great questions, especially for new bakers to make you feel comfortable to, have your steak potentially at risk with that baker when you're staking. So, it's always, you have to do a little bit of your homework and do a little bit of the groundwork. But once it's all done, it's really just, set and forget at that point.
Yeah.
I like how it adds this layer or expands this layer of competition, so that bakers do need to promote that a bit more, that, oh, we're reliable. We've never double baked, you don't have to worry, that kind of thing. Because when it was just delegation and there was no consequence to, what your baker did, there wasn't diligence being done. It was maybe you look at the fees, see how long do they have capacity, that kind of thing. But yeah, now, so I think that definitely enhances the experience. And I think people doing their due diligence, definitely that adds to the community itself. And maybe we'll see even more. I like that over the years, we had these different types of explorers that were specifically for analyzing bakers. And they've come and gone over the years, people's side projects, but maybe we'll see more of those. I think that'll be really interesting to see.
Sergey, anything to add?
I think no. So I think we covered everything. So I'm happy as a user.
Yeah. I think kind of going into it's a little bit of a follow-on, right? Okay. Based on the feedback from the community, what can bakers do to encourage staking with them? So we kind of touched on it a little bit, like build that confidence, but is there anything else a baker can do? If you're brand new starting out, like as Alex said, if you don't have the legacy of being an OG, but you really want to contribute and you want to set up your own bakery and see that forward. Is there anything else people can do besides being visible and being transparent? When I looked for bakers, I was looking at their X handles just to see, like, are they engaged with the community and do I feel like I can reach out to them if I wanted to and, have a conversation? So that was a big thing for me. But anyone else have any recommendations for someone that maybe wanting to start out?
I saw some interesting creative ideas since the NFT era came to be, just sending NFTs to different people, to people who stake with you, people who delegate, as a thank you, as just a general reward. And then that goes into their collection. And other people who are looking at their collection will see that and be like, oh, wow, that's an interesting thing. Their baker sent them an NFT. Maybe that's a baker I can go with because I'm looking at a baker and I'm starting out on Object or Taya and just the NFT world. So it's a great entry point to meet people where they are. And I think there are some cool creative solutions to get there.
I love that it connects the community as well. I think it's pretty cool. Okay, so moving on to a little bit more around like the ecosystem, those that maybe aren't necessarily staking at the moment, or maybe they're not even delegating, right? They're just holding on to their Tez. What should we do as a community to encourage people to stake, and how can we all be an active a member in that? What are some creative ideas that we can do to get others to contribute? This one goes to anyone.
Well,
Kevin, I think you probably have tons of ideas. I know.
That's why I'm biting my tongue. I don't want to
jump on
all
it.
the air.
No, I mean, this maybe was a little bit directed towards you, but I'd love to hear your ideas.
Well, I think there have been so many great things done so far. Great articles have been written and more coming out, different videos and memes, of course, the statements mentioned. I think with that, and the first thing to always keep in mind is, who are we talking to right now? Because it's not maybe people who are necessarily new to Tezos. Maybe they would actually have an easier time going through this process than others because it's all being presented to them at once. It's not the OGs who are or the people who are very active per se in Tezos because they've probably already heard about it from many other people. It's the people who have been sort of in between, like they have Tez, it's been passively delegated. They refer to it in their mind, and when they did it through however they did it, they probably saw the word staking, not from core development, not from Tezos Foundation, not from Trilitech, not from anything that would have initial seeming capacity or whatever, but just from different places. So when we say learn about staking or try to hook people's attention by leading with the term staking, they don't know we're referring to something new. So I think it's important to start our messaging with new, like the word new, or starting in June 2024, or everything you've ever known about Tezos tokenomics has changed recently. Just something to let them know, look, no matter what, I should probably look into this because I'm pretty sure I know what they're talking about, but something about this in the first couple of words makes me think I should just verify that I am sure what they're talking about, because this could affect my money. So I think that's, yeah, just knowing that audience and what breaks through, because that it's a hard shell to crack through. And I've had that conversation with so many people who are like that. And then it's always the same thing. It's always like, no, I am staking. It's like, no, well, I mean, you did this before. No, I'm staking. No. It's like, no, it's a reputable, they said it right. Like, no, I know you think so it's always that situation. And then the other thing is, I always tend to lead with that, I think, in my tweets. But the other thing is, and I haven't brought this up this much, they always ask a second question after that, after they understand this is a whole new system, and they get everything else. They're just like, okay, so that happened automatically, right? What? Well, so it's staking now, right? No, you have to do something. It's not going to just automatically go to staking. No, you have to go and do a thing. And it's like, why do they keep doing that? And it's because people, like, the brain is always looking for the shortest path. It doesn't want to have to do any work that it doesn't have to do. So the optimistic is that you don't have to do anything. It's all automatic, just like the payouts are automatic, and they'll take care of it. Tezos will take care of it, whatever that means. But it's like, no. So at that call to action, that's why I always mention it. It's very important. It's like, you need to go right here, right now, and you need to do this thing. So yeah.
But where most people interact with the chain, the person on the street, they're using their wallet. They might be on an exchange or an NFT site. These guys, they don't care about mempools or block lengths or block times. That's all under the hood. They don't care. So really, we need to educate people through those tools, right? And we need to work with the wallet providers, work with the dApp providers to get the message out there, because that's how the user interfaces. They don't necessarily read a technical blog or a very technically worded document to understand something. We need to talk in the language of the person on the street.
Yeah, very, very true.
What's that Mark Twain quote? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I completely agree with Kevin and Chris, and I think that for regular users, we should make it really simple to stake and unstake and delegate, and we should show that, for example, in a wallet or on stake.tezos.com, so that you have two options. Here you get the yield like this, here you get more. These are main differences, so that he can quickly understand and click which one he wants to choose. And I think this way, if we simplify that, because right now some people have to go to TZKT and do some research, maybe read some articles. I think we should try to, it's working well right now, but I think we can improve it even more. And that's where we can simplify the user experience, and it will bring more users to staking, I think.
Who wants to bring up who wants to bring up stake and .tezos.io and do a little tutorial? Should I put someone on the spot?
Don't put me on the spot, because I haven't got a wallet to attach to it. I think.
Well, at least just show the homepage so you can kind of see how easy it is.
Well, yeah. Hang on a second. I could do that. I mean, I think it's fair to say there's Temple Wallet supports staking in the wallet. I think Kukai is on its way to do that. And if you can't, if your wallet doesn't support it, you can go to, let me see if I can actually present now. Put on the spot by Katie again.
My favorite.
It's going to let me share a window with you. There you are. So I'm now sharing. So this is one of three. There's actually three front ends to do this. So stake.tezos.com. You can connect your wallet here. You can then pick a baker to delegate. I haven't got a wallet to connect, I'm afraid, on this machine. And then you can choose your stake. You can do that all here. So you connect your wallet like you would to an NFT site like object.com or something like that. And you can do it all here. You can also do it with TezGov. And I saw a third site, but unfortunately I'm getting a bit old. I've forgotten the URL, but there's a third site already that has a list of stakers on it. It's got quite a nice interface on it. It's got the list of all the bakers that offer staking, and you can do the same sort of thing. So there are a few sites to help people with stuff.
It's amazing. Thanks for being put on the spot and doing that.
Yeah,
I can see we have a little banner that's popped up. I'm not sure if that was one of you guys or Kenny who's facilitating the background. Fantastic. I think I do actually have one more question for you, Chris, and this one's, you might not want to answer it, but I'm throwing it your way. What's the Tezos Foundation doing about staking?
Well, so the Tezos Foundation likes to participate in things, but we try to be neutral. We want the community to do things and lead the way. So we've obviously got a lot of coins on the network. I think we're about 15% of the network. We run bakers, and we do that for a number of reasons. We want network stability. We're obviously going to hold Tez, and it would make sense. It makes sense to bake those Tez, right? Now we have funds with some custodians as well. So in the summer, I turned staking on. I set the parameter to 5, and as I mentioned earlier, I set the fees to 100%. And that, as I say, is to encourage people to stake with other people. So what are we doing? Well, what we did was we took the network average. And at the time I did this calculation, the network average was about 17.5%. We've got a very audited environment. It takes us a long time to do things on our bakers. So basically, I said, let's go 2% above. And we thought about this, we put it into a big spreadsheet. We picked where we were going to stake, and we staked about 19.5% of our funds. Now, at the time, that was a little bit above network average. I think today it is about network average. There's some stakers moving their stakes around at the moment. So we expect this to continue to rise. So when we hit about 21% on the network, we might stake a bit more and go to 22. If people start to go down, then we might go down as well. But we just want to follow the network. We're trying not to influence the network. That's the key thing, but also trying to keep up and participate.
Makes sense. Sorry to put you on the spot. We also, you can see another little banner here. It's stake.xtz, chad.xyz. There's also another route into being able to stake as well. So I don't know if anyone wants to show that one.
I don't think you can stake on that. Is that the one you can stake on, or I think it's just analytics?
I thought you could. I seem to remember it was that. Hang on a second.
I know there was another one. Somebody made something I saw last week where, like, you can. I think you can stake through it, and then there's analytics on it as well. And then you can, maybe Alex, do you remember something a few days ago that popped up? It was pretty good. I just don't remember who did it or what the name was.
You should be able to stake with XTZ, Chad. That's made from one of our community members. Yeah.
I've got it. I can share it if you want. There it is. So yeah, you can connect your wallet to it, and you can select your baker and where you go. And they've listed the alternatives as well. So yeah, that's quite a nice tool. And I don't think I mean, someone's just done that off their own back, and that's one of the things I like about Tezos. They think, I can see a need for a tool. Next thing you got a tool.
Yeah, he's one of our longtime community members. He's a great dev. He makes great tools and analytical tools like that. So
that's pretty amazing. We're coming up to, we have about 10 more minutes. So I wanted to open it up for you guys, if anyone has any questions that they want to raise to their fellow OGs before we round it out.
Well, I guess I'll go first. Well, I really implore everyone to sort of, as Kevin was saying, this is more of like a education campaign in terms of getting people to stake and talking about the differences of delegation and staking. I think people underestimate the power of sort of grassroots organic movements, and a lot of it has been word of mouth. And as long as everyone pitches in, I think we will get to that mark where we want the total network staked at. So really, it's just we're going to be, especially us at Tezos Commons, we're going to be focused on education and doing these campaigns of trying to create videos, explainers, tutorials, and just highlighting the difference between delegation and staking, because I think a little more knowledge definitely helps. And that's going to be one of our initiatives moving forward for the remainder of the year and so forth.
Love it. I mean, the question really is why not? Why don't you stake? So it's like we got to answer that for our audience to make sure the users understand the value and the benefits there. So more tutorials, I love that. More content pushing. I think that's a fantastic idea, and excited to see that coming from Tezos Commons.
Yeah, I think of it as like there are two types of Tez holders right now. There are the ones who stake and the ones who don't know enough about staking.
Yeah.
That they'd want to do it. I think also we forgot like a really important part of all this, which is why you should stake right now and not put it off till later, which is the rewards are higher now for as Sergei showed, it was, I think, about 20% staking ratio right now. We're headed for a target of 50%. And part of the incentive to get there is that there's this inverse relationship between the rewards and the staking ratio. So to get in early, to do it now, well, it's still only 20%, which will one day be a long distant memory, you get more. So you're basically losing by not going to stake.tezos.com right now and staking your Tez.
Yeah, right. And the rewards will decrease over time because one of the goals is to reduce the inflation, right, on the network. And so this is trying to influence people to put more security in the network by getting more stake, more funds on the network locked, contributing to the security of the network.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kevin. Thank you for adding this. I think a lot of people don't know actually about this because it's something built in the protocol, and you have to be technical to know that. But that's very important to make the decision to stake or maybe to wait a little bit more.
Yeah. One of the things I learned just doing DeFi on Tezos and the first time I guess 4 years ago, when I first learned this lesson, is that just because there's money out there that takes very little effort to get, it doesn't mean you'll have an efficient market that's just going to find out. They're not going to know. Someone has to tell them. The information has to connect to them. So yeah, like I remember, just as an unrelated example, it's like we would have massive arbitrage on first DEX on Tezos on Dexter with USD Tez and Tez. And there were some times when it was just like 10, 20 grand that people could make with just a few keystrokes. And I'd have to go on Twitter and say, hey, go and do this, because I would be waiting like 12 hours for somebody to make a move. And people just either they wouldn't notice it or they'd notice it, but they'd assume, oh, well, if it were that, somebody else would have taken it. It's a very strange psychology. So yeah, so if you're finding out about this and it sounds good, take it. Yeah. Now. You got to go do it. Go to stake.tezos.com.
Absolutely, don't wait. This is the time to get in. So I think that's it for today. I don't have any other questions. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us today, and for the OGs on this call for giving us some of your time and talking so eloquently around why we should be staking and the benefits. I guess the CTA for everyone, if you haven't heard throughout this call, is to go and stake your Tez. You can go to stake.tezos.com. I think that's yeah, right right down there. Look at that, fancy tech. And make sure you're doing that today. Also, feel free to reach out to the Trilitech handle if you have any questions on X. Have any questions about staking, or you want to give feedback, or have any exciting ideas on campaigns and how we can reach a wider audience. The Trilitech marketing team can kind of help. So feel free to reach out to that handle, and you can DM. Other than that, I'll open it up. Anyone have final goodbyes before we close this out?
Yeah, don't be the one that says, where were we when this cryptocurrency thing started? As I echo what everyone says, be there today. And then in 2045, you can tell your grandchildren about this wonderful staking thing that you did.
Love it. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you for the next Tezos Town Hall.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.